To be here, Amy. I don't even know if I've been on yet because my phone is doing really weird things right now.
Well, you know what I love? We're just gonna figure it out. We're just gonna go with it and we're gonna
Perfect.
go with the flow.
Awesome.
And just welcome everyone. If you've hopped on, we have not even quite gotten started. I'm just waving at everybody who comes in. We're giving everybody a chance to hop on. We have a really, really cool, awesome, fun, exciting story to share with you. Libby Supan is my favorite dancer. What? Girl, you got fans.
I'm a pretty big deal.
I think you are. I think you are. Um, so tell me a little bit about you. So introduce yourself for the
Yeah.
people who are like, who is Libby Supan?
Hello. So, my name is Libby Supan, and I'm a 42-year-old female. I am a licensed marriage family therapist, and I specialize in eating disorders and all things related. I struggled for way too many years, decades, with an eating disorder. And my biggest passion in life is dancing and always has been, and I'm sure always will be. And so I know a lot of times, people have the kind of assumption that eating disorders and dancing and the dancing community kind of go hand in hand and that you can't really avoid it, but you can avoid that. So yeah, I always knew and promised myself that if I was ever to get better from my eating disorder, then I had to help others. There wasn't a
Mhm.
question about it. I knew that that was what I was going to need to do for the rest of my life. So for many years, I just never thought this was going to be possible. I didn't think it was going to happen. And I'm happy to say that I'm here today, recovered and doing what I set out to do. I'm helping others get over their eating disorders or disordered eating, body dysmorphia, whatever it is.
That's
So yeah,
awesome.
that's a little bit about who I am.
I love seeing, meeting people on the other side,
Yes, I
because when I
know.
was in it for so long, it was like, there's another side.
Hmm.
Are you, and then you're like, are you sure
I
the other
know.
side is like for me and not just those people? And like, no,
Right.
it's for you. The other
Totally.
side and the
Yep.
light at the end of that tunnel, it's for you. So
Hmm.
how did you meet me and how did you find out about Share My Story?
Yes. Well, I met you, Amy. So let's see, a few months back, I started a very small Instagram account for my business.
Okay.
And yeah, and I just started connecting with like other, clinicians and colleagues out there, people that are doing this thing. And I saw Dancing with Ed and immediately was interested, like, wait, dancing, Ed, what? Is this a thing? And so, yeah, I looked into your website and your page and your organization, and I was just like very impressed. And then you and I think had like two or three different Zoom calls and we got to know each other and I learned more about like you and what you do. And yeah, so that's how I got connected with you. And I think you're doing great stuff.
Thank you. We
You're,
know
of course.
I can relate to you 100%. I hope this inspires anyone who's listening. Is that I did the same thing. I told myself, if I can ever get out of this, I'm going to help other people,
Hmm.
because it gives purpose to the pain. It gives purpose to what is happening in life. It's not for nothing, right? We
Yep.
go back in and we help other people and we be the difference and we have these conversations like we're having today.
Hmm.
And so I'm inspired by you already. So let's jump in. Tell me, just kind of from the beginning,
Hmm.
when you started dancing, what type of dance did you do?
Hmm. Yeah. So let's see. I first started dancing when I was really young. I think I was about 4 years old. And I remember the costume. It was to the song Great Big Beautiful Doll. I think that's like most everyone's first dance recital. Anyways, there's a recital like VHS tape somewhere out there, and I'm sure it's hilarious. But yeah, I really got into dance when I was in fifth grade. I did jazz, tap, ballet, hip hop, funk, lyrical, cloggy, cheer, tumbling, gymnastics, all of that stuff. My favorite type of dance is jazz and hip hop, but I like still really love tap dancing. When I was in high school, I was focused on competition cheer, and I'm happy to say, maybe unhappy to say, I recently ruined my bamboo floors using my old tap shoes, and it was like 50% worth it because it was really fun. But yeah, I began to compete nationally in sixth grade, and as an adult, I've gotten into pole dancing, which is really fun. It reminds me a little bit of like tumbling and gymnastics from when I was younger, with like doing the different pole tricks, and I will be teaching hip hop in the near future.
Hey, that's cool. I
Yeah,
wish
I'm
I
super
lived
excited.
I wish I lived in your state because then maybe I could do that. So
Well, if you ever visit.
it's been a long time since I've done hip hop. So
Yeah.
maybe I won't take that class. So you mentioned we had a really long conversation and you took me through the whole story. And you mentioned that you started seeing or noticing body changes and behaviors in yourself during your freshman year of high school.
Hmm.
Um, would you say those were the early signs of an eating disorder?
Yeah, so I noticed body changes because I was changing my eating and exercise behaviors. So it was like a direct correlation. So this is when I definitely began to engage in eating disorder behaviors, such as restricting and overexercising, which definitely had an effect on my body. When anyone confronted me about my body changing or raising concern, I absolutely denied anything was different until I was like blue in the face. I just like
Mhm.
did not believe I had a problem. Um, I thought everyone around me was the problem and that I was the only one who got it. I was the only one that was doing it right. The only time my mom ever made me go to therapy was freshman year in high school, and I did not speak. I think I spoke like one word to the therapist, and this is truly when like the eating disorder behaviors really began, which again was like restricting food and compulsively overexercising. But yeah, I was in 100% denial. I did not think I had a problem. So I
Mhm.
didn't see these as eating disordered behaviors.
Sure.
Now I see them, obviously, that that's what was happening. But at the time, I just thought I was being, the good person that I was.
Yeah, and it's so we're usually the last to know
Yeah.
when we're sick, or we
Hmm.
have a problem. We're like, oh no, I'm totally fine. And yeah, so we're questioning like, how do you know when things are getting really bad? Sometimes it's because you don't think you have a problem,
Right.
right?
Totally.
Yeah. Um, so what was happening in your life at the time? Like, were you experiencing anything
Yeah,
profound
for
or
sure.
big?
Yeah. So I had just moved the summer before my freshman year in high school with my family from a small town to what I thought was a big city in California, where everything was drastically different to the lens of an eighth grader. So I'd come from a place where I was
Mhm.
really comfortable. I had my dance studio with my dance friends. I was doing competitions on the weekends. My friends meant everything to me. I felt popular. I fit in. I was established as much as a tween can be established. And I really just like
Mhm.
loved my life for the most part. When I moved, everything changed. I didn't have a single friend. The only thing I knew or was good at was dance and cheer. And then I missed the cheer tryouts due to the move, which was so devastating at that age. And we hadn't yet found a new dance studio. So when school started, I immediately realized that I was the odd one out. I did not fit in. Everything at this school was opposite of what I knew to be true.
Mhm.
Good grades, dance, cheer, the clothes that I thought were cool, hairstyles, makeup, all were like, I was now just like dorky. And I just didn't fit in. And also something to maybe mention about the high school I went to. So there's this movie called Dangerous Minds from 1995 with Coolio and Michelle Pfeiffer. So it was a movie taken from a book that was written about my high school. And really, I just felt very scared walking on campus. I was bullied by many different groups of kids. I was really desperate for friends. I tried out for every single sport just to make friends. I even tried out for badminton. I don't even think I knew that that was a sport. And I really, really don't like sports and I really suck at sports. So, like, I guess I'm saying that just to show you, like, the desperation. Like, I just wanted to have friends. Um, yeah. And
Mhm.
if I remember correctly, the only time I played volleyball was the very last 3 seconds of this tournament and I made the losing hit. So that wasn't my favorite thing. And yeah, like I said, I was bullied by many different cliques. I received threatening phone calls where random people told me not to show up at school or else. I was terrified. I ended up getting mono this year, which was my freshman year. I missed over a month of school. And really, I just like put all my focus into my grades and dance. Um, we finally ended up finding a dance studio that was about 35 miles away from my house. And it was a time commitment, but being part of the studio was worth it and kind of like the only thing I really felt like I had going for me at the time. Um, So yeah, so freshman year of high school was probably like the worst. The remaining 3 years of high school weren't nearly as bad simply because I was able to try out for cheer, where I was back in my element and made some friends. Um, and then also the other piece was that my family was very dysfunctional and I did not have a voice. So the only way I expressed myself was to write in my diary. And no one really knew what was going on with me. No one knew the real me, and no one knew I was like very depressed.
Wow. So you went through an enormous life change that sounds like it was pretty traumatic in the sense that it was like this, not even just a culture shock, but you had said something really interesting. You said, in your old studio, you felt your friends meant everything to you. You felt popular, you fit in, you were
Hmm.
established, you loved your life, and you lost that. I
Yeah,
mean, that is a huge loss in a young
definitely.
person's life. And then you move to a new environment,
Hmm.
and the bullying. It sounds like, I mean, that's like safety issue type thing. I mean that,
Right.
and when we talk about risk factors for developing eating disorders, I mean, we're talking major life changes. We're talking
Hmm.
bullying can contribute. Feelings of being disconnected from our community can contribute. And
Hmm.
now you're saying that even things in your family could possibly have contributed. So,
Yeah.
I'm so sorry to hear that you had to experience all that and go through all of that. But I'm also hopeful because I know how your story ends, and it didn't end. It definitely didn't end there.
Yeah.
And you said you didn't have a voice. You said your family was a dysfunctional, and you didn't have a voice.
Hmm.
How do you think that played in to food and control and the behaviors?
Yeah. I mean, it played a part in like all of it. So, yeah, I mean, I didn't have a voice because, in my home life, it was either like screaming or silence. We didn't really talk about things or feelings or like what was really going on. It
Yeah.
was kind of like we just, I don't know, my family was very like appearance driven and just didn't talk about things like that. So
Mm.
I don't even know if I knew how to have a voice. I just didn't. I didn't. So
Mhm.
like I didn't have a voice in my family. I didn't have a voice like with friends because, well, now at this time I didn't have any. Um
Right.
and that's not true. I did have a few friends. They were just different. They were new friends and they weren't yet like my people. I hadn't really established a real
Mhm.
group of friends where I fit in. But
Now,
yeah, I didn't have a voice. I didn't, yeah.
so you also mentioned that freshman year of high school was the first time you thought of suicide. Just waiting for your, looks like you're frozen, so we'll just wait a second for it to come back. Okay. Well, she stepped out of the room. We're going to invite her right back in. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here and hearing this story. There
Okay.
she is. Hi,
Yay. Am I
honey.
back on?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
So I can.
Okay. So,
Yeah.
first of all, I apologize about whatever's happening with the connection.
You know what? I'm gonna go with it if you can go with it.
Yes. So I did hear your question. Okay.
So yeah.
So you asked about like I had started thinking of
Yeah. So that
suicide.
was you had identified that freshman year of high school was the first time you
Yes.
thought of harming yourself.
Right.
Um, Tell us a
Yeah.
little bit more.
Yep. So yeah, freshman year of high school is probably the first time when I started thinking of harming myself. I just felt very desperate. I often questioned if there was a different way of life. As my 15-year-old self, my life just felt completely unmanageable and as if it was always going to permanently be awful. I didn't know my life would or could change and that there was life outside of high school. Like I just couldn't
Mm.
see it, you know? And looking back at that age, it's like, you know, I was in such a bubble. And of course, like I didn't know any different. And I just couldn't imagine like, is this it? Like I can't, I don't want to do this. So yeah, so everything going on in my life had everything to do with how I felt about myself and wanting to harm myself. I never wanted to feel pain or to hurt anyone ever. I just knew I didn't want to live like this in the way I was currently living. And I want to make it very clear, I never attempted anything, but I did have ruminating thoughts about it for several years. But again,
Mm-hmm.
like freshman year was definitely the worst. And I think it's absolutely 100% correlated with the fact that I didn't have a community.
Yes, absolutely.
Like we're,
And when, sorry, go
no,
ahead.
no, go ahead.
No, you.
Oh,
When we, when,
no, you.
yeah, no, you. When we're feeling isolated and we're feeling alone and we're feeling, I actually put in my notes here, trapped, question mark. There are times where we try to cope with using things that hurt us, thinking that it's going to make us feel better when it just continues for, you know, to make it worse. But we don't know that in that space.
Mm-hmm.
And it, you know, and people looking from on the outside looking in, they're like, well, why would someone want to hurt themselves? Like that just doesn't make
Yeah.
sense. Right. But when
Right.
you're in it, it makes perfect sense,
Right.
you know, and it can either be like, I remember when I still currently go through periods of thinking of self-harm. And it's like, I know that when that thought comes into my head, it's like, okay, I'm in a lot of emotional pain.
Yep.
Let's take a look at that. But when you don't understand what's going on, you're right. That word you use, desperate.
Yeah.
I'm desperate to do something to either feel or to numb.
Yeah.
No.
Totally. Right. And it, yeah, 100%. Yeah. And it's, I think too, and I said this earlier, it wasn't like I wanted to feel pain or hurt. I just didn't want to do it like this.
Yeah.
And I didn't,
Well, and could it have been, I mean, I'm just questioning out here. It could have been a
yeah.
control thing too. Like I can control this pain, but I can't control the pain on the outside or the
Yeah.
other.
I mean, I don't think I was like consciously aware
Oh,
of
of
that,
course. Yeah.
but yeah, totally. Yeah.
Because I know sometimes that's the case with restriction.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like
Right.
I can control how I hurt me.
Yep.
I can't control how you hurt me.
Exactly.
So if I can control the hurt that I put on myself, that gives me power.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Um,
And
yeah,
yeah, it's that power that like, well, you know, remember being in it. It wasn't thinking of like the restricting as like something to cause pain. It wasn't like that at all. It was like this was my jam. Like this made me feel
yep.
high. Like it truly was
Mm-hmm.
a high. And I was on top of the world, even though I was like desperately, you know, angry at the world. It was just this like all powerful feeling of
Mm-hmm.
just dysfunction.
Yeah. And often, and you know, those are the leading up to somebody who becomes suicidal. We call it, you know, the person struggling with suicidality.
Yeah.
Those thoughts that come inside our head, and I describe it as it's not that the person wants to die.
Yeah.
It's not that the person wants to take their own life. It's that they want the pain to go away.
Mm-hmm.
And their mind, for whatever reason, is creating this solution.
Mm-hmm.
And because I remember when I was my most suicidal, like I really thought that I was doing my family like a favor.
Mm-hmm.
You know, my husband was going to be better off with another wife.
Yeah.
My daughter was going to be better off with another mother.
Mm-hmm.
And it was this because my brain was so sick and it was so
Totally.
hurting.
Right.
Afterwards, like after kind of got through that mental space, I was able to kind of see more of it from a different perspective.
Mm-hmm.
But it sounds like for you, it's the same type of thing. You were in this pain and you're in this situation and your brain is doing what it can to
Yeah.
survive or
Totally.
to cope with whatever was going on.
Mm-hmm.
So you use the word powerless to describe how you were feeling.
Mm-hmm.
And oftentimes eating disorders will step in and say, I'll help with that.
Right. Oh, yes. I had it. Yes. It made me feel confident, a false sense of confidence that
Hmm.
I didn't realize it was false. I
Right.
felt very powerful. I felt better then. Um, yeah, it was kind of like my armor in a way,
Hmm.
like my shield to protect me from like all the emotional pain out there.
So
And
what did your eating disorder look like at this point? What did it look like without
we're
going
still
into too
talking
much
about,
detail?
yeah,
But,
we're still talking about high school, right?
yeah, your high school, when you're, yeah, in this, at this stage of the game,
Yeah. So
what
high
was it
school,
looking like on the outside?
so high school, it was like, oh, I don't even, but it was, I don't know why I want to say the word like it was unmessy at this time. It was all restricting and over exercising.
Okay.
I had not gotten into any of the other behaviors up to
Okay.
this point. Those didn't start until college.
Okay.
But yeah, so it was like strictly restricting, very restrictive, and like compulsive over exercising, like really, really bad.
Did you ever get any outside like encouragement from people like, oh, you're so dedicated or you're so committed
Oh,
or
my
like,
whole life,
yeah.
everyone has praised me on any moment I've like look smaller. If you see me eating what you think is healthy, if you know that I'm an exerciser, or like when I would be overdoing it, like, that thing that people say, like, oh, you're so good.
Hmm.
You're so good. How do you do that? That's like the worst thing you can say to somebody who is doing those behaviors, because it just feeds into this like powerful thing that the eating disorder does to your brain.
Hmm.
It just makes you like, I mean, it just like makes your ego just skyrocket.
And it reinforces. And I remember being told the same thing and thinking, you don't want what I have.
Uh-uh.
Like
Yeah.
there is some sort of a demon or something inside of me that's
Yep.
trying to kill me and on the
Totally.
treadmill.
Yeah.
And you definitely don't want this type of motivation or whatever it is that you see
No.
from the outside.
Yeah.
And so, you'd also mentioned that you were struggling with perfectionism. How did that play a role?
Yes. I was a perfectionist, to say the least. I felt like it was kind of all I had. As long as I could remain perfect and whatever that means, I would be okay and hopefully go unnoticed so no one would pay attention to me. It was kind of with the eating disorder, and I know other people can relate to this. It's this idea of like wanting to be invisible yet wanting to be the most like in your face at the same time. So like being perfect was a way to shine, but also a way to be invisible. Um, if that makes any sense.
It does. Yeah, it
Yeah.
does.
So also I was just like incredibly hard on myself, and I just held myself to extreme expectations. I had mostly all A's, a few B's. I was always engaging in some activity. I never sat still. It was dance, cheer,
Mm-hmm.
babysitting. That, good grades. I was definitely the good kid growing up. And as far as perfectionism, like whether it made my life better or worse, I guess I only know my experience. So I'm not really sure if I wasn't a perfectionist, like what I would look like at this point. But, I
Mm-hmm.
imagine life would have been different if I wasn't, the good kid, or if I was more of a rebellious type of kid. Like maybe I would have chosen substances over like, food, or the lack of food. Maybe it would have been more attractive. I don't know. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but what I do know is that I was held to a higher standard than my siblings. And when I did anything wrong, it was a very big deal, which wasn't fair to any of us. I'm not blaming anyone for that. But at the time, it felt really unfair. But I also knew like I wanted to be the good kid. I didn't want to be a bad kid.
Um, and the good and the bad, good, bad, that black and white thinking,
Yeah.
all good, all bad, perfect or not good enough. And an eating disorder, it loves to it feeds that to us.
Yep.
That if we do good, we are, sometimes it's safety. If we're good, we're safe, and we're,
Yeah.
or we have, like you're saying, how you want to be visible but be invisible at the same
Hmm.
time. Because
Yes.
each one I need in certain moments. Maybe when I'm being hurt or I'm being mistreated, I want to be invisible. When I need validation or I need to be seen because I want to be worth something, I want to be visible.
Yeah.
You know, and
Right.
with the behaviors, sometimes we use those to dictate, am I visible today? Do I
Right.
want you to see me? Do I want to be, you know? And so, and again, there's that, at least I have control over something,
Hmm. Absolutely. Yeah.
right?
It's
And it
the all or
comes
nothing
back,
thinking. Hmm. Black and
good or
white.
bad, good kid, bad kid.
Yep.
And you could almost control that as well, because you know
Yeah.
exactly what you would need to do to be good, and you know
Hmm.
exactly how you would define bad. Of course, compared to your peers, they may have just seen perfect across the board, somebody who
Right.
has it all together, right? I mean,
Hmm.
you were a dancer, right? You were in a
Hmm.
dance studio. I mean, you were still participating in dance and activities, but you were sick at the same
Yeah.
time.
Totally.
Do you think the
Yeah.
people around
Yep.
you suspected how sick you really were?
Uh, no, I mean, like, thinking back to, I don't know, I remember like, at lunchtime, I'm thinking of like, yeah, lunchtime in high school. I think when I was there, it was closed camp. I don't know. At least my first 2 years, I think it was like closed campus. And I just remember like eating as little as possible at lunch. And like, you're around all the other kids, so everyone sees what each other's eating. And I just remember like two friends specifically, like almost every day, like, are you really only going to eat that? Like, don't you want some food? And yeah, so they would be concerned in that sense, but it was almost like, it was like we would make light of it, like, oh, ha ha ha, there goes Libby and her like saltine crackers, whatever like
Mm-hmm.
stupid like diet I was on at the time. And I do remember too, like one friend in particular, we'd go like shopping at the mall together after school and trying clothes on, and I couldn't understand why like certain things didn't fit. And anyways, I don't want to get into specifics, but
No, thank you.
I remember
Yeah.
the store. It was Wet Seal. The lady working there, and my friend were both like, I just remember their faces and the way they looked at me and my stomach, and it was like, whoa. I Their faces freaked me out, and I didn't understand what was going
You didn't
on. And I just
understand.
remember closing the dressing room door and like,
Yeah.
I'm never doing that again. Like, I'm never showing them
Mm.
an outfit again.
Yeah. Now you had mentioned um, no one knew you were depressed.
Yeah. Yeah.
You would use the
No
word
one.
depressed. So identifying it as having depression or experiencing some of the symptoms of depression at the time. Do you,
Hmm.
looking back on it now, are you seeing it as depression like in your younger years? Or did
Absolutely.
you even think then to yourself, I think I have depression? Like, did you have a little bit of awareness then? Or is this all kind
I
of
don't
looking back?
Yeah, so looking back 100%, I had depression. At the time, I knew something wasn't right with me, but I didn't know what it was. I don't even know if I really knew the word depression. I'm sure I did,
Mm-hmm.
but just can't remember that far long ago. But yeah, I was definitely depressed, and I knew something was wrong with me, but I didn't know what.
So you told no one about anything until you went to
Hmm.
college. Why is
Yeah.
that?
Yeah, so again, I didn't necessarily think I had a problem until I was in college. Up until college, like I said earlier, I was restricting and over exercising, which didn't really feel like a problem. Like
Yeah, I
I
know it's
knew
so
I was
normalized. It's so
right,
normalized.
right, especially with like our diet culture and like everyone giving you kudos for doing all of this stuff, like, oh, look at Libby, she's so good. So
Yeah. Well,
I
and
really didn't think it was
the dance community reinforces that as well.
totally 100%. Um, so yeah, I didn't think I had a problem. I definitely knew I had a problem when I started binging in high school. That's when I was terrified because this was like my worst nightmare coming true. Like
Mm.
I was able to control and restrict up until college, and it just was like everything was out of control. So yeah, and again, like, so I grew up in a house, growing up where we didn't talk about feelings, thoughts, or experiences. I didn't feel close enough or trusting anyone with anything in order to self-disclose. And I also wanted people to just like have this like image of me and like that I was perfect. So I felt like I wasn't allowed to have any problems. So yeah, so there's like quite a few reasons why I chose to stay silent.
Um, trusting someone enough to take the mask off
Yeah,
and say, look at the insanity, which is
yeah,
my life. Like, look at this
like,
raw, ugly pain.
yeah,
To trust enough to say, I need help. I mean, that's, I never ever look negatively at people who are saying, I just couldn't do it, because I know, I
hmm,
get it. It's so hard to
yeah,
even imagine speaking those words. And that is why, especially in suicide prevention, we say, if you see someone hurting, if you even suspect that they're
hmm,
under emotional distress, like just something's not right, reach out and you ask the question.
right,
Because it's like when we're actively drowning, right?
hmm.
Can we speak?
No,
Right?
oftentimes you can't. Like you
You
don't, you
can't.
just,
So,
it's like you're paralyzed.
yep. So you can't. So, but you, the person is looking at you and you're like, oh my gosh, that person's drowning. I'm not going to wait for them to cry out for help. I'm going to
Hmm.
take my arm, I'm going to shove it down that water, I'm going to pull them out
Right.
and help them, because they literally can't do it themselves.
Hmm.
Um, so, so I'm so sorry for that, Libby,
I am
who
too.
was in that space. And I
Yeah.
hope that she doesn't feel alone anymore. And I hope that she is healed.
Hmm.
And that there are so many other Libbies out there right now,
I know.
that are in that space. And if you're listening, I want you to know that you are not alone. You are not alone in that space behind that mask.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
and and so you moved to finally seek treatment.
Yes.
I mean,
Yeah.
how did that come about?
So, um, I actually sought out eating disorder treatment for probably over 11 years. I was turned away every single time to not being underweight, and therefore insurance not covering the cost. Um, I went through several therapists, probably about 20, before I found the one that I still have today. She's amazing. When I was finally approved to attend real eating disorder treatment, I felt that this was truly the best thing that could have ever happened to me. Because of insurance, I was only approved for IOP, which, for those of you that aren't aware, it's like the lowest level of care in a treatment center.
What does
Um,
IOP stand for?
Intensive outpatient. Um, so it's like at any given treatment location, it's a little bit different. So it's usually like 3 to 5 days a week where you're there anywhere between like 2 to 5 hours a day. Um, so yeah, so I was approved for IOP when I really knew I needed residential, where you live in a home. But obviously, I took what I was given. But because of the level of care and the length of care, which was not enough, I knew I was going to have a lot of work to do after my treatment episode, which I did.
We usually do.
So,
It's
yeah,
like you get out, you're like, okay, I did my 30 days, you
right.
know? Okay,
I know,
eating
like, and
disorder, you got to be gone, right? Because I got to move on with my
right.
life, and they don't tell you, girl, it's the beginning. You are
Oh,
just starting.
seriously. Yes,
So
it's
you said
like,
11 years,
yeah.
or you
I mean,
sought treatment for 11 years, but you were turned away.
yep,
So, wow. So um, let's talk about this for a second. So you were turned away for not being underweight,
yeah.
and therefore insurance wasn't gonna cover it. I mean, what was that like for you in that moment, hearing that?
There's not even words. I mean, devastating, maddening,
Yeah.
angry, like disheartened, like desperate.
Mm.
I didn't know what to do. I mean, it was awful. And I just kept
Yeah, it's like you're
trying and
finally
trying.
asking for help. You're
Yeah,
finally going, I need
totally.
help. I want to live.
Hmm.
And they're like, well, it's just not bad enough, or it's not dark enough, or it's like, no, you need to get inside my head
Right.
You like,
Totally.
so our bodies, yeah, I mean, people who are super sick with eating disorders, you can't always tell. You can't always
Absolutely.
tell by looking at someone
Hmm.
if they have an eating disorder. It's not a body type.
Nope, it sure isn't. Yes,
Um,
it can absolutely affect one's body, but it is here.
right.
It is in our heads.
Yes. So you did the intensive outpatient. You did have a lot of work to do, and you did that work, right?
Hmm.
I mean, you did become involved in a community group
Hmm.
for quite a while, and you worked through, but it wasn't with eating disorder professionals.
Oh, you mean like before I went to treatment?
This is after, so after treatment, you said, you got out, you had a lot of work to do, but you did continue to work toward recovery, but you weren't actually working with eating disorder professionals, but you were kind of doing a 12-step plan or something.
So, yeah, that was actually before I went to treatment. So,
Okay.
yeah,
Correct me. Yes.
so because I was like denied for all those years, like for, real treatment, I was desperate. I was doing anything and everything where,
Mm-hmm.
and so if
Mm-hmm.
somebody told me like, this is what I did, this is what I was like, this was my, I'm cured from my eating disorder doing this. I did anything. I read every self-help book. I was part of a 12-step program for many, 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 many years. Um, and I'm not here to like knock any kind of a program, but it was not the program for me. And I did not know that until I went into treatment myself,
Mm-hmm.
realizing all of what I'd been doing for about 15 years was only making it worse,
Mm-hmm.
and just how upsetting that was to me. Um, so yeah, I mean, I really struggled and tried for many, many, many years doing it on my own. I mean, not really on my own, but with or like organizations that weren't professionals.
Right. And yeah, sometimes we go, man, if I could only go back,
I
and
know.
if I had known, I would have done this or that. And we do the best we can with what we
Hmm.
have.
I know.
And
Yeah.
sometimes it takes longer to get where we're going, but you
Mhm.
got where you were going.
I know. I know.
Eventually, you got where you were going. When
Yeah.
would you say your final breakthrough happened?
Yeah, that is a good question. So I would say probably like my last breakthrough was a few years back. It's when I learned this different approach to challenge the eating disorder voice and thoughts. And it's really
Mm,
just a simple brain exercise where one can actually like have fun doing it. In the beginning, usually like you're not going to have very much fun doing it because you're so like in it. But after
yeah.
some time, it's pretty fun. It's like really just a way to get to know your brain and your thoughts. And I have learned that we, myself and we, people I work with, and we can make up a lot of funny thoughts and beliefs and not even know it until you are aware that you're having these thoughts, which have then become your beliefs. But yeah, but also in general, like I don't think I'm ever going to be done having breakthroughs. I'm just constantly working on myself and just absorbing things on the way.
That's so inspiring just to hear from somebody who is as educated and fully trained as a therapist, to
Hmm.
hear that you're not done either,
Never.
because
Yeah.
because it's just like I was patient for so long, and like I always looked at my therapist and my doctors as like up here,
Uh-huh.
and they probably have it all figured out, right? Because
Totally.
they became therapists, so they're
Right.
done or whatever. So it's just so encouraging and such a breath of fresh air to know that like you were able to reframe and take a different approach to the ed thoughts and the
Hmm.
voice, and to learn that skill, and then to continue to see yourself as I'm still on this journey. I'm still having breakthroughs. I'm doing the
Absolutely.
work as a professional now, but my
Hmm.
body journey isn't over. My
Right.
wellness journey does not end when I become a professional treating other people.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I'm always doing something like working on myself, whether it's like shoving podcasts in my ears or,
Yeah.
whatever it is. Yeah.
Yeah, because we can have this idea that you arrive at recovery and then you're done.
Right. And it's not like
And
that.
it's not like that at all. It's just
Yeah.
because life it doesn't always get easier. What
Right.
happens is life doesn't get easier. We get stronger.
Yeah.
I'll say it again. Life does not get easier. We get stronger.
Yeah.
We rise to the next challenge and to the next chapter of whatever it is that we're going to learn. So when we are towards the end, like you had some breakthroughs, and you'll continue to have breakthroughs,
Hmm.
um, and so I know a lot of people are probably curious as well. Why did you decide to become a therapist?
Yes, that is the question. Yes, so I always
Yes.
told myself that if I ever got better, that I have to help
Mm-hmm.
others. It wasn't even a
Yeah.
question. I also know that there's a lot of really bad therapists, coaches, and providers out there working with eating disorders when they have no
Yeah.
business in doing so, causing more harm than good. It's really upsetting to me. Um,
Yeah,
and
I
like,
bet if I asked everybody to wave right now, of all the people wave who've met one of those people, I bet it'd be like blowing up here. Yeah, because
yeah,
I've had a few people too in my life who are like, you know what, lady, I can counsel you.
right. So I'm gonna tell you one crazy thing. The craziest thing a therapist told me. This was years and years and years ago. So he was a
Okay.
male, and he knew nothing about eating disorders. It was like a therapist through Medi-Cal. That was like the insurance I had at the time. And he actually was like giggling and says to me, "Hey, why don't you, every time you want to eat a Snickers, just go have sex?" Okay, and let me just say, I never used the word Snickers. I never said anything about a candy bar. I never said anything about boyfriends or sex. I just remember being like, what? What? I never went back, to say the least. So, yeah. Anyways, um,
Eating
so there's a
disorders
lot of
have nothing to do with Snickers and sex, people.
right. Like, anyways, um, sorry.
Wow.
So again, like I really didn't know if it was possible that I was going to ever get better, um, but it did. And yeah, so before being a therapist, I was so lost. Anyone that is my family member or friends knows that I've had so many jobs. So before I was a therapist, I truly probably had like 60 jobs. Um,
Wow.
and I'm so glad to know I feel like I arrived and this is my true calling. I'm so passionate about the work that I do. And I just have so much respect for my clients and the hard work that they do every single day. And I just know so many amazing people in this field, colleagues and different providers. And I get to meet awesome people like you, Amy, that I never would have met if I didn't do this, you know?
I know. It's awesome. So how do you feel about your body now? If that's not too personal of a question.
Not at all. Well, I'm happy to say that I walk naked all over my house all the time. Granted, I do live alone, but that never used to happen. I feel mostly content and acceptance of my body today. I definitely have days where I have negative body image. Today, I know to treat myself with kindness and patience when I have these days. I make sure to dress in comfortable clothes and avoid mirrors if I'm able to. And I really just know that this is a feeling. It doesn't mean this is factual. For whatever reason, I'm just like having an off day today. It's going to pass. Um, and another thing that's like really huge is today I'm able to dress for any occasion on the spot. So I say this because this wasn't the case before. So I used to, like, let's say last minute be invited to, I don't know, a pool party or something. There's no way I would go. It would take me like weeks to prepare to like be in a bathing suit or to be in a certain dress. I just wouldn't do it. And today I can change out of like pajamas into a bathing suit, into a prom dress, like no problem. I don't care. It's like, it is what it is, you know? So that's a huge, huge change.
That is a huge change because I
Yep.
know clothes and getting dressed to go be with people can create a lot of anxiety
Hmm.
in us when we are fighting our eating disorder thoughts
Hmm.
and feelings. And just being able to identify, okay, this is a feeling I'm having right now. This is a
Right.
feeling I'm having about my body. You know, I didn't have this feeling about my body 2 days ago when I was feeling really good about my body, and I
Hmm.
know my body hasn't changed that much. So this
Right.
must be a feeling that is
Right.
going to subside.
Hmm. But like, as you know, when you're in it, is so real. It's like,
Oh yeah.
I really believed like my body was like however many pounds bigger today than it was yesterday. Like I truly believed that. Another thing that
Yeah.
just talking about this, I'm remembering.
Yeah.
So
Share.
I cheered at Long Beach State when I went there. And like I think it was my third year. I was planning on cheering for 4 years, and it was my third year. I couldn't do it anymore. I could not put that outfit on anymore. I just couldn't do it. And so I ended up like quitting cheer at Cal State Long Beach was like my dream. And like my eating disorder, my body image, like took that away from me. So that was something that was just so sucky. But fortunately, like
Yeah.
that's not an option today, but that would never happen today, you know?
Yeah. And it's that's what's so hard about trying to reach people who are in their eating disorder, because it really is, you're trying to show them like that what you're seeing right now isn't real, or it's not,
Yeah.
and it's like hearing that, because I remember I would get really angry when people would try to tell me that what I'm thinking isn't real, what I see isn't real. And it's
Yeah,
it's like, well, it's
totally.
real to me. It's real to me.
Uh-huh. Which means
Someone
it's
said your
real.
reality isn't reality. And yeah, and I'm like, well, you know what? I'm still stuck in it. And
Yeah.
it's real to me. And I think I needed to feel validated. But like,
Uh-huh.
yeah, it is real to that person. And man, that must be so hard to see that as your truth. And then to
Right.
have everyone around you going, I'm sorry, but you're sick.
Right. Yeah, definitely.
And it takes a really strong, really brave person to say, I'm not going to live this way anymore.
Yeah. I
I'm
wasn't.
done.
Yeah.
And you kind of have to be like sick and tired of being sick and tired.
100%. Yeah, it's like you can't do it anymore.
And it was almost like I used my anger toward it
Yeah.
to be like, F this, you know what? I am so pissed that it robbed me of my life. Like my
Yep.
eating disorder robbed me of 18 years of my life.
Mm-hmm.
I was not going to give it another day.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it's like get angry at it. Get mad.
Yeah. Be like, F this, man. I'm not, you know what?
Totally.
I want to be able to go to a pool party like everyone else.
Right.
I want to be able to
Totally.
put on a dress like everyone else,
Mm-hmm. I
and
want to
you
be able to
can't.
eat cake at a party.
Yeah. And not hate myself for a week.
Right. Or not like binge on 10 cakes later. I mean,
Like, how many cakes can I eat?
right. A lot. A lot.
A lot of cake. That's a lot of cake.
Yeah.
So, what would you say to a dancer experiencing similar things that you experienced? You have some things written down here, and I'd love to hear them. So, what would you say to a dancer experiencing these similar things?
I would say one, I would let you first know that you are not alone. Two, I would second let you know that there is a solution and a way out. Three, I would thirdly encourage you to tell someone you can trust and get the help you require. Four, I would suggest they work with a team who are health at every size, intuitive eating, and body positivity aligned. Five, I would recommend unfollowing all negative things on social media accounts. Anything diet culture related, anything that makes you feel bad about you when you're looking at it, whether it's a friend or an organization or a family member. It doesn't mean you don't like that person, just for whatever reason. It's not wise to follow them right now. And to start following things that bring you joy, like puppies and dancing, and
Yeah.
and also to start looking at images of your size body and bigger bodies, because what's happening is because of diet culture, because of all these images that we receive, we truly are so ingrained to believe that that is what is right, that particular body type, and it's just not true. And so you can truly change your beliefs in your brain by just looking at different images.
Wow. Which means we have a lot more power than we realize.
100%. Yes. Yeah. So those would be my first like recommendations or things that I would want other dancers to know if you're struggling with any
Yeah.
kind of disordered eating. I think the biggest thing is you're not alone. And please tell someone that you
Yeah.
trust.
Yeah,
Because
absolutely. And if
there's,
it's, now you have two people, now you're looking at Libby and me, there's two people that are here right now for you to say, hey, that was me. That was me who you were
yeah.
talking about in that video. I'm in that space right now. You
Hmm.
encouraged me to tell someone, so I'm telling you.
Yeah.
And that's where it can start. Do we have answers to fix everything? Absolutely not.
Right.
But we if we can come together and feel more of a community and feel less alone, I think
Hmm.
that is what equips us with what we need to
Yeah.
save ourselves, for
Yes.
us to reach out and make those changes inside us
Right.
that we
And
need to
there's,
make, but we can't do it alone.
I know. And the other thing too is that just telling people that there's so much help out there. There are so many
Mm-hmm.
people on this train doing it the right way, like getting away
Right.
from diet culture and all of that. Like there is a way. There really is. There is a
Absolutely.
solution.
Yeah. And and you're a resource,
Hmm.
in your practice. So how can dancers, parents, and teachers contact you?
Yeah, so I have my own private practice. I mean, do you want me to say out loud what my email
Yeah,
and
you
phone
can
number?
say right now.
Okay.
Yeah, if you just want to say it out right now, because this is going to be on our IG
Okay.
TV. So
Okay.
this people will be able to rewatch the video who missed it. So how do they
Perfect.
contact you?
Okay. So my name is Libby Supan, and my phone number is 562-999-1263. My email is libby@libbysupan.com. So that's Labby at Labbysu, wait, Libby at, yeah, sorry, Libby at Labbysupan.com. And then my website is libbysupan.com. My Instagram, how many times can I say my name? My
I
Instagram
don't
is
know. I'm having fun listening to it.
my Instagram and Facebook are both Libby Supan LMFT. And I think I said all the things. Did I say all the
I
things? I think
think,
that was all of them.
girl, I think we all know your name, Libby Supan.
Just so you know, I'm Libby Supan.
Yeah, yeah, and you're unforgettable. And I love your story. I can't wait for to read your book
Thank you.
that you probably have thought about writing and haven't written it yet, right? Am I right? Am I right?
Oh, I have yes, lots of
Yes.
book ideas in my head. I've wanted to do a memoir for so long, and I think I'm going to say I will one day.
Well, however I can help be a support for you, please, please, please let me know. Thank you again,
Awesome.
Libby, for
Yes,
pulling
thank
back
you,
the
Amy.
curtain.
Thank
Yeah.
you. And thank you everyone who's listening. And please, please, please reach out for help if you're struggling or if you know someone who's struggling. And the thing that I always make very clear is, hey, if you and I aren't going to work together, that is totally okay. Let me help you find someone that's going to work for you because there is somebody for everybody.
Absolutely. And you know what? Even if it's like, hey, Amy, I want you to know, like, I'm in that space. I'm super like struggling right now, but I'm not ready to get help.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not in that space yet, but I want you to know that like, this is where I'm at right now.
Yep.
Thank you for telling us. And I'll be praying,
Yeah.
and we'll be waiting here for you
Mm-hmm.
when you're ready.
Yep. Yeah, definitely.
So thank you again, everyone, for tuning in. I hope you took away something from her story and from this conversation, that you can share with other people. And if you want to contact me, just send me a message, a DM. Thank you so much, Libby Supan. So you have some new fans, Libby. I'm super excited for you. All right, everyone,
Thank you so
have a
much.
wonderful day. Oh, thank you so much too well, I could just thank you all day, but we're going to end it here. All right. Have a
Okay,
great day,
thank you.
everyone.
Okay,
Bye-bye.
bye everybody. Bye Instagram world. Okay, bye.